If we could come to order, please. Are there any public speakers? There are no public speakers. I'd like to make one addition to the minutes, and that is Zenaida Chapay was also present at the last meeting. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Those in favor? Great. Any changes to the work plan?
Yes, there are actually. As you know, we were supposed to meet in January, and that meeting did not take place, so whatever was due in January is now due in February. In addition to that, if you notice, the old work plan had said that we will present the contract compliance activities in April and October. However, we will be doing that every time that the committee meets, so it will become a recurring item as opposed to doing it twice a year. In addition to that, there are no changes.
Thank you. The next item is our goals, and I want to point out to you that there are two sets of goals that we deal with in this committee. Goals for the committee, which you received in the form of my memo, first as a draft and then as a final dated 12/22. And the committee goals are to maintain our focus on our subcontracting and mentoring, and to refocus ourselves a bit on our workforce diversity and achieving our goals in workforce diversity, which we are in the process of doing with help from our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Loda, who is with us today. And then finally, there are also the departmental goals, and Mike Garner will talk to us about those.
Yes. Thanks, Susan. Our goals for the year, the first thing is the training program is going to resume on Thursday this week. The training program basically is to train our contractors how to become better contractors at the MTA. The current goal this year in the mentor program is to award at least $16 million in contracts, and we are on track. We are basically working with the FTA to approve our FTA-funded mentor program, which we are optimistic that the first contract is going to be awarded in June.
The Finance Committee has authorized to go to the board on Wednesday.
Yes.
The expansion of the program for TDX.
Yes, right. Basically, we are working with Empire State. They will be here in the next month or so. They're going to be meeting with each of the operating agencies and going down a line-by-line review of their purchases to build a consensus of how we can do a more effective job of including MWDB firms in our spend going forward. We are finalizing our MWDB contract compliance system. We are focusing on the first module, which should be ready in the next month or so. We have been engaged in conversations with all of our subway car manufacturers and bus manufacturers about creating a program in which we will co-manage a program to engage the MWDBEs in the buying of parts and supplies that will feed their manufacturing process, and also to the operating agencies who buy supplies every year. And our bottom line goal here is to achieve our MW and DBE goals. That's the whole entire focus.
The next item is our diversity outreach report. Zenaida, is that you?
Yes. Good afternoon. Our outreach initiatives have, as you can see, begun in January, and we have aggressively started attending and coordinating various outreach events. The 15th Annual Wall Street Project Economic Summit hosted by Reverend Jesse Jackson was attended by our department. We have kicked off our MTA DBE certification sessions this year, and this year we have added the MWBE, the New York State NWBE certification status. Every quarter we will have a representative from New York State in attendance giving an informational session on their certification session. We have attended the Dr. Martin Luther King CACI small business breakfast meeting, and that basically was in attendance with our sister agencies, DASNY, Small Business Services, and there was an update on current legislatures and an update on small business programs that we have presented at that meeting. In February, we attended the annual New York State Association of Black and Puerto Rican Legislators Conference, which was very well attended this year, I must say, in addition to the Ammonese Legislative Business Development Conference, where many of our legislators attend and give us an update on what's going on, and we get to participate with different small business owners and let them know what our programs are about. This last Thursday, we gave our third annual MTA agency-wide contractor forum, which was very well attended. On our program was our COO, Nuria Fernandez, who gave welcoming remarks along with Mike Garner. And in attendance, we had over 150 firms with over 30 prime exhibitors. And the effort at that forum was to help our small businesses build relationships with our prime exhibitors for subcontracting opportunities, and I have to say that this is our third, and it's a result-driven forum. The firms were very excited, and we are about to get our next one underway, which is the Architectural and Engineering Forum. We do attend the National Minority Business Council Annual Awards Luncheon that will be held this week. And presently, Mike may want to tap in on this one a little, but we are, with our sister agencies and with a relation on the Puerto Rico Economic Development Conference, we are planning a conference that is going to build synergy between our Puerto Rican large firms and our small business firms here in New York State.
Right. With the help of our board member, Freddie Ferrer, we both spoke at a conference down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The outgrowth of that conference was to link firms who are based in Puerto Rico who have experience of doing large capital construction projects, who have bonding and who have capital, to form joint ventures. And so these new firms can then start bidding as prime contractors on our projects. And what was once a one-day event has now turned into a three-day event with at least 13 agencies on board. And so we are very, very, very excited about the prospect of these firms bidding on larger projects.
Yeah. I've said it privately. I should say it at this meeting. Mike has done an extraordinary job of carrying this ball. Usually when you bring somebody to this particular fountain of water, you have to continue to stay on. Mike just runs with it, brings everybody together. I'm very, very optimistic about how this is going to turn out, and I think it's a real tribute to Mike's working hard and his vision.
Thank you.
I agree with you entirely, but I also want to point out that in order to meet the goals that we've set for our minority and small business subcontracting, we need to be sure that the word is out and that we're making opportunities for people, and that's what each of these programs is designed to do. Without them, we aren't going to be able to meet our goals, and we all know that. I know it's becoming challenging for the agencies, so this is a very key element. Would you like to continue?
Yes. In March, we also have a very aggressive outreach calendar. The Somerset Futuro Conference, which is going to be held in Albany, is another well-attended conference in Albany by a small business firms, where they attend workshops and listen to a lot of legislative issues that are currently worked on. LaGuardia Community College presents the Brooklyn Small Business and Procurement Expo. Last year, there must have been like over 350 firms at that expo, and we will attend it this year, along with the Regional Alliance for Small Contractors Clearinghouse that usually is held at the Con Edison Building. And again, the third annual MTA agency-wide architectural engineering is currently in place, which will probably take in April because we're doing a lot.
And we also have the agency-wide diversity programs.
Yes, there were no programs in January. In February, the Headquarters Diversity Council and Transit met, and we had a event for Black History Month, which was on February 17. Long Island Railroad also celebrated this African American Heritage Month, and in March, Women's History Month is being celebrated by MTA Headquarters and Long Island Railroad.
And I always encourage any board member to attend those events. They're fun and sometimes get an absolutely amazing turnout.
Certification. Caroline?
Hi, good morning, and good afternoon, rather. All right, what we have here is what went on last year in terms of the number of applications that were received. We had a total of 114, but I also have for you here a comparison of what we've received in 2010 and 2009. We had a high of 131 in 2009. It leveled off a bit in 2010, and you can see it's going back up in 2011. I expect it to go even higher in 2012 based upon all of the activities that are taking place. Now, in terms of how firms are actually processed, in 2011 we processed 112 firms. Of those 112 firms, 70 were certified, 12 were denied DBE certification, 21 were returned for various reasons, generally because they did not cooperate, and 9 applications were withdrawn by the applicants themselves. Again, in comparison, if you'll note, in 2010 we certified 70. And although the number appears to be the same, I'd like to point out that in 2011, this was done with less staff. I had one person out for 4 months on family and medical leave, another person out on 3 months for family and medical leave, and a third person who was splitting his time between certification and outreach.
And meanwhile, you maintained those certifications
Yes.
that you had.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. The annual submissions,
Everybody
yes.
has to understand that this is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time fix-it.
Right. Once a firm is certified, we have to review them annually. So every firm that we've ever certified has to be reviewed on an annual basis in addition to those newly certified or processed firms. So in 2009, we had processed 113, 2010, 119, and 2011, a total of 112. But as I said, that's with the caveat understanding there was less staff doing the job.
And I want to point out also that that Carolyn changed her her vacation in and around Christmas, so we could at least match last year's totals.
Merry Christmas.
And Christmas also as well. So thank you.
Certainly.
And Danny is going to talk to you about, and what's not here is that in 2008 there were about 35 firms certified for the whole entire year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is very significant.
Oh, I remember that.
This
This
is
is a
significant,
huge
yes,
change.
yes.
Not only because you're certifying more, but because your turnaround time is much better.
Oh, I can speak to you about that if you would like. In 2008, we processed a total of 57 applications, and the average processing time was 33 days, 33 business days. In 2011, we processed 112, and the average processing time was 34 days.
That's good.
And so what's new now is that Danny is going to speak to those 200 firms who have been certified in the previous 3 years with respect to the contract awards that they receive. Because it's one thing to certify companies. It's a second thing to bring them in-house and integrate them into the business practices of all of the operating agencies. Danny?
Okay, good afternoon. Like Mike said, the key is to get the firms that we certify as much business as possible. Out of the 200 firms that we certified between 2009 In 2011, 12 of our DBEs received contracts, and 25 of those contracts were awarded to DBE firms. So I guess one DBE got more than one contract.
Right, so it's basically 12 firms got prime contracts, so they bid it to us as prime contractors. The second 25 firms received subcontracts.
Okay. And that total number for federally funded projects was $25,585,441. Now, also in that 3-year period, there were firms that are MWBE certified under the state's MWBE program. And out of those, 19 received subcontracts and 7 received prime contract awards. So the total for both categories, for the FTA funded and for the MTA funded projects, was $38,619,045.
Yes, what you see on page 18 is the summary of our findings of MTA agency-wide workforce for as of December 31st, 2011, and it shows the underutilization of minorities and women. Now, the workforce that's stated here is the overall workforce for MTA headquarters as well as the MTA agencies. What I have given you as a separate document is the workforce of MTA headquarters and agencies, and this is according to the job category, and it shows there is underutilization in particular job categories at MTA headquarters as well as at the MTA agencies. At this point, I would like to turn over to my colleague Gloria Colon from MTA Bridges and Tunnels, and she is going to talk about the Management Associates program at her agency.
Before you move on, I have some questions. At a previous meeting, Susan, you might recall that I had requested that some of the issues that we had previously discussed with respect to underrepresentation be embedded in the work program of each of the operating agencies. Any indication as to where we are in that?
Yeah, I've spoken with a number of the presidents, and I've spoken with our chairman, and I asked that our chairman be the person to indicate the appropriate way to implement it, and our agreement is that because the workforce is really controlled by the operating agencies, it's the operating agencies who have to see the detailed reports on their own progress towards goal. And it's those agencies that we need to ask to make changes in the way things are being done. There were a couple of initiatives underway in the last couple of months, and I think we're going to get a status on those at our next meeting. One of them was the Best Practices Hiring Initiative. So there are things in the works, but it hasn't really, I don't think we've seen progress yet, let's put it that way. But it has to go to the operating agencies.
Can we expect at some point, when I get a Bridges and Tunnels book or a MTA LIRR book, to see how they're dealing with these issues, much like crime? You know, crime's up, what are we doing about it?
What I specifically asked for was that the operating agencies present that information, and you've seen the detailed reports, as I have. We saw some of them at last month, I believe it was, in January.
Mike was good enough to prepare a very extensive and detailed report off of our EEO filings.
That's right.
Correct.
That information will be reported, or what I've asked to have done is have that information reported at the agencies so that the other board members on the agency committees can hear it, and that we have, for those situations where we're not meeting goal, have an explanation as to what steps are being taken to meet goal, and also to try to cross-fertilize what's successful in one agency would it work in another agency? Because we've seen that that is very successful when it's applied to the subcontracting process. The way one agency approaches something is shared with each other here, and that results in other agencies using the same successful approaches. So I think that has to take place as well.
Let me say,
Susan?
yeah.
Yes.
I'm in the process of, as I've mentioned to you already, in the process of evaluating the committee structure, and one of the net results of that's going to be a continuation of the diversity committee, however, having monthly reports at each one of the operating committees, so that when you see B&T or you see the Transit Authority, like you see reports on fire or whatever else that they're looking at, you'll see it in each individual one of those meetings. So as you've requested, Mr. Frere, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Mr. Chairman, music to my ears.
And really, that's the only way that we'll be successful at this. This group, as wonderful as everyone here is, can't achieve the goal that we have in mind.
The silos that exist here prevent this committee from being as successful as it should be.
That's
Thank
why
you.
it is gratifying to me that our chairman and CEO is at this meeting. I don't remember that ever happening before in my short time.
And I want to tell you, we are happy to relinquish a responsibility to the people to which it belongs, because that's the way we're going to be successful. And I know my fellow committee members here, that's where we can hold feet to the fire. So I appreciate that.
Not a problem. I do think, though, we just can't rely on the presidents to do some of the more broad-based things that the group has done, like Michael, and the various different, the effort that's going on in Puerto Rico, the effort that goes on in lobbying in Albany. And I might add, while I'm here, just talking about, as Freddie mentioned about Michael. Michael is called upon by the governor's office with more and more frequency lately, because of how successful he's been and as successful as the MTA has been. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. In addition to all of the events that are going on, every time I turn around, Michael's in Albany advising the governor's staff how to do these types of things. So it's important.
Thank you.
Well, the bad news is that with the implementation of the federal mentoring program, I think you're going to be seeing him in Washington. He's not happy about that.
I have an additional question. I promise I'm wrapping up. In this summary of findings on page 18, I notice, and I know it's a summary, so inherent in a summary is that you summarize a lot. But I noticed on the column, met minority goal, which is a very important metric, we're not disaggregating anymore. Is there a reason for that?
No, it's not.
Because that could be misleading.
Right. Right. We can change that.
His point is that we know from having seen the detailed summaries that there are, if you disaggregate the minorities, there are some minorities that are not being met.
Yes, that's true.
So-
Yes, and that's
This is the first time they've used an aggregate like this, and can we have an aggregate with the disaggregation? A summary with the
Disaggregate that
disaggregation?
last column.
no, I understand the detailed report that we provided. That does
Yes.
show each minority, and you wanted something similar for.
As long as we're discussing this in the context of our diversity committee report, it seems to me that, let me flip the script a second. If we were to aggregate everything,
Right.
women and minorities, we're all fine, let's go
Yeah,
home.
it's true.
Yes, we can do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Let me say that on the next presentation with B&T, it was very, 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 very refreshing to me that the president of B&T created a management associates program. And in my conversation with our chief operating officer, she has indicated that this would be a great tool to implement agency-wide. It's one thing to focus on what the inherent problems are, but it's a different thing to come up with strategies for improvement. And I think that this program is a great program that can help us get to where we need to be.
With that, Gloria?
I've distributed a handout that summarizes the particulars of the program. Good afternoon. As Michael was explaining, the president of our agency, James Ferrara, tasked us with creating a program that would develop the potential leaders of our organization as part of succession planning. This is a program to develop entry-level graduates with bachelor's and master's degrees into well-rounded managers, and to produce a broad view of the agency by having them work in various departments for 6-month rotations. This is a 2.5-year program. They will also be supported by a team of colleagues, trainers, and mentors. We have an interdepartmental council that manages the program, training coordinator, and supervisors and mentors from the various departments. We expect to have 5 to 7 participants. As I said, it's a 2.5-year program. The salary will be $50,000, and those who successfully complete the program will be strong candidates for positions in our agency as well as the other MTA agencies. I might want to add here that the governor's office has also created a program very similar to this, where they will also have a salary of $50,000. There are other agencies, such as the Port Authority, that has a similar program. I think what's a bit different in our program is that we're starting with people who have no prior management experience. And so we'll be actually growing our own. These 6-month rotational assignments will be in operations, technology, engineering, human resources, and finance. A project will be completed at the end of each rotation, and an evaluation will follow. These courses will be taught by professional managers as well as our in-house trainers, and a mentor and a supervisor will be assigned to each. As I said previously, it will be a recent graduate of either a master's or bachelor's degree. We also open it up internally, and the majors were in engineering, public administration, technology, business administration, and finance. And they had to demonstrate a clear interest in public service in either paid or unpaid positions. We received over 1,000 resumes. We reviewed them initially and ended up with 377 viable applications.
Wow.
When we concluded the deadline on February 6th. We've gone through the initial process and now have whittled it down to 49 candidates, and these will be interviewed by a panel. We will have the panel be male, female, and mixed ethnicities to assure that there is as broad a base as possible. And the selection will be done by March 31st to implement April 15th. One thing that's been really beautiful to me is that we've got a considerable amount of applicants who are immigrants. As is the case, well, I'm certain you all know this, engineering schools, for the most part, the student bodies are foreign-born. And it's a rather unusual phenomenon. When you see the number of people who are so gifted, so qualified, and we said, this is a program where we'll have only 5 to 7 candidates. So in a sense, it's kind of heartbreaking when you see the talent that's out there, given the fact that the economy is still trying to stabilize. And so we're very excited about this initiative. It comes at a time when we needed something for morale. It's been a tough time for the agencies. And to see the enthusiasm of the participants so far has been a shot in the arm for us. So we're really looking forward to bringing in these new hirees, these people who will hopefully become part of our managerial force, and if not in our agency, then certainly in the other MTA agencies. Mm-hmm. We cast a wide net, a very wide net, and the results have been, as I said, that a considerable amount, the bulk actually, are minorities and women. And so we expect to have a very good representation in this project. And we're really looking forward to nurturing them, to training them, to send them forward into what we expect to be a very prosperous future. And we've been fortunate to have the participation of all these departments in our agency that are enthusiastically lending support. And again, we want to credit our president, James Ferrara, for spearheading this effort. And we are really looking forward to this opportunity to grow our own. Thank you.
And thank you for President Ferrara's presence today. I have a question. Is it intended that this is to be a recurring program?
Oh, God willing, yes.
Okay. God willing, or yes?
Yes. Well, yes, sir.
Questions anywhere? I hope you could give us a progress report.
Absolutely.
Perhaps 6 months.
Absolutely. Be glad to, yes.
And now we're on to the small business
Mentoring program, yes. Since the exception of our mentoring program, there's been a total of 35 contracts awarded totaling $19 million. And exactly 25 of those contracts were awarded to New York State certified MWBE firms. What you're seeing is for the first time in the history of the MTA that there's a vehicle here for us to award prime contracts to state certified firms. Mm-hmm. It is always more effective for our contractors to work for us as prime contractors and not at the mercy of our prime contractors working as a subcontractor. Of those firms that have gotten contracts, 9 were also certified in DBEs. We currently have 149 firms that's pre-qualified in the program, and 47 firms are being processed to get into the program. And this motto, which was started at the School Construction Authority back in 1993, has been fully implemented here. The City of New York is going to issue an RFP to create a citywide mentor program. And the State of New York, we are talking about creating a statewide mentor program because it's a proven program. It's working. There's a bond program associated with this. It's a loan program, so any contractor who wins a contract, they can get a loan. And as the owner, we will issue two-party checks until the loan is paid off by the third invoice. So it is a proven program.
It's wonderful. Contract compliance?
Yes, we have altered this report, the report that we used to prepare for your committee. The report that we're presenting now is actually what's reported to the federal government and to the state. On the federal side, that's on page 23, the summary of what we report to the federal government. That's reported to the FTA, Federal Transit Administration, twice a year. The reports are prepared on June 1st and on December 1st, the June 1st being the October through March period, and December 1st covers the April through September, the federal fiscal year being October 1st to September 30th. And for the federal reports, we report on DB participation in contracts which are awarded, as well as payment information on contracts which are concluded for the reporting period. So the goal being 17%, we reported that $958 million was awarded in federally funded contracts for the federal fiscal year, with $104 million going to DBE, firms which are certified DBEs. And for contracts which were concluded, $260 million was paid to primes, and there were a total number of 5 contracts. And $32 million was awarded to certified DBEs for a participation rate of 12%. And on page 24 is the details of what I just summarized.
Any questions? You know, I'd like to comment that part of our goal in working for the mentoring program and getting that approved and implemented here was to expand our pool of certified contractors so that we would be better able to reach our goals, because as you can see, we still haven't quite gotten to where we'd like to be and where we need to be. I think we will, I'm seeing improvement. You know, I don't mean to take that away from anyone. I do see us improving. But I think as the mentoring program successfully fledges the people in it, we will see a better contract portion going to these firms. That's what our ultimate goal with the mentoring program was, and we've still got a ways to go, so we can't lose track of that.
Well, and you know, this year we will award $16 million, and we've made a goal here by year 5. By year 5, we are currently in year 2. Year 3 starts in July. By year 5, we will be awarding at least $100 million a year in the state-funded program. And once the federal program gets started, we are going to have the same kind of benchmarking goal. By year 5 in the FTA funding program, we would want to award an additional $100 million per year, and that's where you will see the MW and DB numbers starting to grow.
We also report to New York State. That's on a quarterly basis. So we, as a result, we report 4 times a year, and the reports are prepared 45 days after the end of each quarter. And the report on the state reports include expenditures mainly of what was paid out to prime contractors and what was paid out to certified MWB firms. And the state report also includes what contracts were awarded and how many of those contracts had goals. But primarily the information that's given to the state is on expenditures. So the results are on page 26. What this shows is that our goal was 20%, and $1.3 billion was awarded in non-federal, which is state-funded contracts, with $114 million being given to certified MWBEs, and so the participation rate is 9%. And in terms of, that's the awards. In terms of payments, $775 million was paid on contracts, with $99 million going to certified MWBEs for a participation rate of 13%.
Right, and the key here is that, I mean, you know, if you look at the awards, I mean, the actual awards is one thing, is one benchmark, but the true test to the award is how much money were paid to MWDB firms based upon the award. So I'm focused on both, but we are really proactive of keeping an eye on the bottom line as to how many dollars are in fact paid to our pool of MWDB firms. One of the issues that you wanted us to look at was to look at MWBE fees that were paid to law firms, that's paid to underwriters, and that's managed by our asset fund managers. And if you turn the page to page 27, the legal fees that were issued to MWBE firms is currently at 10%. I've sent correspondence around to all of our councils, indicating to them that we must do a more effective job in dispensing fees in a more inclusive manner. And we've also had the state's MWBE law firms who are currently on our roster to reach out to all of the operating agencies and give them an overview of what they are in fact doing. I'm extremely optimistic that as we go on, right, we are going to hit our goal in this area. Also, underwriters. We are currently at 18% underwriters. This is an area that we've worked hard. We were the last state authority or an agency that issued debt in the state of New York that did not have any senior MWBE firms there. Now there's 2, and you can see that the fees are gradually going up.
The underwriter issue was one that we tried to tackle about, I guess it started 2 years ago?
Yes.
So we are seeing
The results.
Yeah, that's turning around.
Right. With respect to our asset fund managers, in one area we are doing an extremely great in. That's an area, or that's a pool where there are a overabundance of minority and women-owned asset fund managers. With respect to MAPSTO, I think it's 21%. With respect to the MTA defined benefit pension plan, including LIRR, we are currently at about 25%. Where the other focus is, that we are having a hard time in attracting M and WBE firms that has a history of managing assets, basically that can ensure us the same amount of returns that we are currently experiencing right now. One of the issues I want to talk about as we move forward is in an actual conversation I had with the state controller. They have a program that's called the Emerging Manager process, in which they bring in small firms and they basically train them and put them on a track so they can become bigger firms. That's one aspect or strategy. The other strategy is...
I hope, Mike, you don't use them as a model, because after 3 years of promising, their performance is abysmal.
Right. Well, if they have a vehicle that we can look at to see if we can implement it, I mean, is worth looking at. Also, there was a press release, I guess about 2 weeks ago, that the city controller recently awarded more than $500 million to state certified M and WB firms. So it's worth having a conversation to look at which areas that they are getting qualified MWB asset fund managers and giving them the opportunity.
Michael?
Yes.
Sorry. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, both the State Treasurer's Office, which also coordinates things for MBTA, has an extraordinary program in the asset management area, and I'll put you in touch with folks up in Boston.
Okay, great. Thank you. Naib, you want to take the last part of this?
The capital projects awards?
Yes, which was last reported at CPOC, so it's the same information. So I'm not sure if you want to...
This is the information that we saw last month in CPOC. If you have any questions, or would you like to review it again? In which case we can deal with our policies.
Yes.
The policies which are in the book are not signed, but in the meantime, we have obtained signed policies, so I'm going to pass out the copies to you, which are the signed versions of the same policies.
Yeah. You finished? Yes, sir. You finished. Okay. So these are our assigned policies. And last but not least,
Change from the priors?
There was a minor change from the priors.
Minor change.
Well, it had to do with whom the complaints can be filed. The prior policies had stated that if someone has a complaint, they can either see a manager, a higher-level manager, or Mr. Garner. And in the case of at the MTA headquarters, one can also see the chief of staff if they don't wish to file a complaint with our office. After the Federal Transit Administration review, the FD had requested that if we could state in these policies that specifically state that the complaints be filed with Mr. Garner. So we have indicated that, even though under the law, if a applicant or employee raises an issue, that is essentially a complaint. So, but the FDA had asked us to indicate in the policies that the complaints be filed with the Chief Diversity Officer. So it specifically states that now in these policies.
let me say also, at the State of the State last year, the governor indicated that he wanted to increase contract awards by double. And at the MTA, historically, we had a 15% M&WB goal. The governor wanted to go up to 20%. We began assigning the higher goal on all of our contracts starting last year. This year, we have officially notified the board that we have increased that. So I was torn between going through a process which was going to take some time, or being aligned with where the governor was going, and I chose to be aligned with where the governor was going. And so as of Wednesday, our goals will officially be changed to be aligned with where the state is going.
You know, we have to I think we need to align our goals with the state, but we also need to align our programs so that we can successfully meet those goals. We can't just set a goal and not help the agencies get to it. We need to be sure that it's achievable,
Yes.
and that's our job as well.
Right, definitely. And last but not least, let me just say this again, and I say it time in and time out, is that I have some of the greatest staff here. If you ever come by our office at 6:30, 7, 8 o'clock at night, you'll see my senior staff there working in order to maximize contract awards, maximize the hiring opportunities. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to simply say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I also wanted to mention that when you had asked me a moment ago about the policies, we also reviewed the 3 policies together and wanted to make sure that they were uniform in terms of the language in each policy. So that's another addition that we did this time. And I do want to thank Rhonda Moll. She's here. She was very helpful in getting these policies reviewed.
Let's ask a question. Are these limited to headquarters?
These are policies for MTA headquarters. The agencies do issue their own policies as well, covering EEO, sexual harassment, and ADA.
Do you try to align them with these?
They're somewhat different in terms of the language, and the agencies, if someone has a complaint, an applicant or an employee has a complaint, the agencies, the policies state that those complaints are filed with the agency's respective EEO officers.
But that's procedural. The substance is the same, right?
Yes, substance is the same. Yes. I mean, the wording may be a little different, though. It's not exactly the same wording in those policies, but the substance is the same.
So we can expect the substance to be exactly aligned?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else that you'd like to discuss? Anything else that we have? I thank you very much. Appreciate your time. I'm happy to say you're out of here before 5 o'clock this time. Motion to adjourn. Motion. You moved?
I move it.
All in favor? Thank you. We're adjourned.
Not just fast. We actually got out before 4.
Oh.